I feel if we understood, if we could break it down, it would, by itself, in understanding clearly, it would help also. So before we say, I want freedom, oh yes, let's go and get it. Let's understand how bondage or the sense of being unfree came about. When birth took place, were you born unfree? So we're going to catch that a little bit. I want to start at the place where, without consciousness, let's start there. If there was no consciousness, there would be no world. We can be in agreement with this? Without consciousness, there could be no perception, because perception is fundamental to experiencing, isn't it? Because of consciousness, you come to know that you exist. Without consciousness, you don't know you exist. In that way. So that, let's start at the fundamental place. Without consciousness, nothing is. Okay? But consciousness, when we say consciousness, we need to understand even what this consciousness is. Because now, when we speak of our life, you're speaking effectively about our waking state, isn't it? If you're writing an autobiography, it would not include your dreams. It would not include deep sleep. It will include the life, the story of the life that took place between the waking up, the phenomenal waking up in the morning, and then up to the time you go to sleep. Whatever happens in that conscious period, we call this is our life, and that is all you're going to write about. So even if your name is John, you can only know of yourself as John for, well, let me see, if you get up at 7 o'clock, what time you get up this morning? 7 o'clock. What time say you go to bed at 10 o'clock? How many hours is this? How long is your life in the waking state? Each day, say about 15 hours. So only for 15 hours, if your name is John, you will only be John for 15 hours in what we call a 24-hour day. The rest, you're oblivious to who you are. If somebody came to you in deep sleep and says, John, it's quite unlikely somebody's going like this, no? So, in the waking state, the phenomenal waking state. I also said something that each day we wake up from the phenomenal sleeping. We wake up, we say we wake up into the waking state. But to be truly awake, in the satsang sense, you have to wake up from the waking state also. Lost? No. Okay. So waking up means we wake up and everyone wake up and, John wakes up. And then somehow, even sometimes when we wake up, we are not immediately into identification or identity. When you have to, some people have to wake up during the night, breaking sleep, to go to bathroom. If you have to do that, you don't need to remember your name. And so we can carry out these functions without picking up, any background, any history, you can do that, no? So it shows that consciousness is possible and it is necessary if those functions have to be expressed. Consciousness must be there, but not necessarily consciousness plus personal identity. With the arising of that consciousness, we know that, yes, although you can only be John for 15 hours of the day, approximately, you cannot say you only exist for 15 hours of the day, isn't it? They say you must exist unbrokenly. Something is existing, but for sleeping period, it effectively shuts down, business closed, meaning the functioning of cognitive functioning, interactive consciousness is not there. Then the being can take rest. If we don't have this rest, then we don't function well in the waking state. So let's start. in the arising of the consciousness that announces itself in the body, the feeling, I exist, before even the words I exist or the thought, just the knowingness, our first conviction, I am, I exist. The way in which we recognize, without being taught, we recognize that we are a living being, the sense I am. You register your presence. From the arising of this presence itself is not personal. It is the pure consciousness. It even has no history. It is just consciousness. But as soon as it arose from the first time, let's say when it took birth, then a series of impressions are put towards it, that it must, the tendency for every living human being, let's start with human being, is that this I amness, this awareness, some awareness, something that knows it exists, maybe in the very earliest child principle, that knowingness has not really germinated properly. It just is just reactionary, reactive to environment and so on. But as soon as it's able to perceive consciously, it's associated with the body, that it is the body. It needs the body. The consciousness needs the body in order to taste experiencing. You're following? Very good. So this belief, this secondary knowledge, I am the body, followed the natural I am, which is complete in itself. I am. Am means to be, to exist. I is what? I exist. I, consciousness, am. I exist. This is what it means. Then this I exist, which is actually not even male or female in itself. The body is male or female body, but the consciousness is just consciousness, the sense of knowingness. Then that sense of knowingness gets also further associated. Now it is the body. Parents help it. It didn't feel it immediately. When a child is born, it doesn't feel I'm a girl. It doesn't know I'm a boy. It doesn't know, oh, mommy. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't know a doctor. But the knowingness came later on. So as soon as it comes there, gradually it gets associated with the body. Also name. Maybe the name also came. The name is not original, so the name came. Somebody thought of a name. Should I call him George or James or something? Then someone call him George after your father. Okay, then go George. Baby don't know I'm George. Hello George, hello Georgie. Hello George. But gradually that impression and the love associated with that impression, it gets stabilized inside the consciousness, and it gradually gets associated, I am John. It takes a while. Some children, maybe when they're first going out, they're allowed to go out under the watchful eye, maybe distant eyes of their parents. Parents want to see how they behave if they go out. So sometimes mother might write the name James or John on a piece of paper, put it in the pocket, because child might get lost. If you get lost, somebody asks you, hello, what's your name? Boy. Where do you live? House. Is not going to be enough to find your way home. So those early things, they're put to you. And we gradually associate. Once the belief and the conviction, I am this body, stabilize, then other concepts can come in through the door of that identity. So I'm a boy, I am so old, I live in this place, this is my mother, this is my father, this is my sister, this is my brother, this is my school, this is my toy, this I like, this I don't like, blah, blah, blah. And the whole superstructure of conditioning begins. And it's not stable. It keeps adding and subtracting as we go. So I'm starting here, no? Because I'm still with you, okay? We're starting here. As soon as the consciousness is developed enough to be aware of itself and belief, I am this body, I am this particular person and like this, it begins to, actually it seems as though it's developing something, but actually it's restricting something. Feels like it's developing, it's expanding, knowing more, becoming more and more, but on another level of pure consciousness is becoming restricted. The more you define, the more you confine. You create a groove. Are we with this or not? So this consciousness now starts to develop certain idiosyncrasies, certain desires for things. We don't know why. Why does this child, just born not long ago, want to play piano? Put all the instruments around here and wants to play piano. Where did that come from? Okay, we can go into that a bit later, but gradually start to develop things like, don't like, want, don't want, like this type of stuff. So like this, it's begin to show certain characteristics. It starts to have some attraction for some things, for certain things, that it develops a particular interest in those things, and it wants to enjoy those things, and has some things that it doesn't want. It doesn't want to see those things. Okay? So very, very particular characteristics are building up there. Whatever it has a deep association with, a love for or a hate for, it will begin to experience thoughts around these things start to come. Like that. Just like there are flies going around now because it's a bit damp and the flies come. But if you want to see a lot of flies, find some poo. There's going to be a lot of flies there, okay? So in the same way, wherever there is some strong thinking or some attachment or identification with something, there's going to be thought activity happening around that place. So I don't want to put it that just thoughts are just random, just any thought can fly from anywhere and trouble you. No, it's a homegrown, slowly developing association due to what we become attracted to. Whatever we are attracted to, we believe in, around that thing, certain kind of thoughts will come. And by the time it gets to a place where the personalized form of consciousness begins to find that it cannot control its projections. They are too strong, too loud. It cannot turn them off at will. So it comes time to sleep and the mind won't shut off, or whatever it is that may come. Or the relationship it creates with some phenomenon, okay, is causing it trouble or grievance inside itself. It wants to be free from this. It gets entangled into something, it's attracted to something, and then it suffers from this thing. Or it aspires for something and it cannot reach this thing. Whatever it is, it has this expectation, this aspiration for something, and the disappointment or the suffering from not having this thing, or this thing going away. And so this life becomes gradually more and more. There's a time when it seems that whatever you want, you get. And there's a time when it seems like whatever you want, you don't get. And we think, oh, why is life so hard? Why is it so difficult? I don't want this anymore, and so on, so on, so. Because we have not learned how to read the language of the vital force and of nature. Because having been conditioned in a particular way, we are not, our consciousness is not widely able to move amongst all things. Only the things we are conditioned to identify with, to choose and to prefer, like that. Now, Sri Ramana Maharshi, a great sage from India, he said something, I think last time I might have said it also, and it's important that I'm sharing it with you now. He said, the I removes the I, yet remains the I. The paradox of self-realization. That will need a little explaining, and I'm going to do that. Again, the I removes the I, yet remains the I. Of course, we cannot just leave it like that. Nobody's, how many I's are there? So, what he's pointing to is just, in a nutshell, what I've just been explaining. The natural sense I am, it is not personal, it doesn't have the name George or John, that's not what it is. It's just the vibration or the intuitive sense, the divine sense in you, I, consciousness, exist. I am. It is the knowingness. You may call it the Spirit of Truth, the Spirit of God. Now, to you now. Ramana said, the I removes the I, yet remains the I. What it means? The sense I am, which is pure, it is pure, has to remove or transcend the influence of the I me, the I person, which it collects in the world. Its conditioning, its beliefs, its attachments, its addictions, its aspirations, its life, its dreams, all of it. It must overcome that. It must transcend that. When it transcends that, it again returns to its original state. I have to explain a bit further. The I removes the I. Why did it have to get the I in the first place? Why did the I am be pushed into the I me person in the first place? We cannot say. That somehow the consciousness, which was pure, had to come into a world of diverse impressions. It has to navigate itself through this world through the senses. The senses are going to introduce it to phenomenality, to things. It's going to have come to appreciate some things as beautiful, some things as ugly. So the five senses and the mind also, which again brings in time and change and attraction, repulsion, all of these things is going to be pushed into the field. Because when you came into life, you didn't go and sign up, can I have the smelling sense? Can I have the seeing sense? I'll pay. No, it all came in as a package deal with this body. That the ability to you to have the senses and the mind, and that became our craft, this body. How you can sail this craft in this ocean they call samsara, meaning the ocean of life. Samsara actually means with suffering, but most people don't agree with that yet. So only at the later stage we may call it suffering. Before we call it beach. Okay? So, like this. So it's very important what I'm saying for you to understand what's happening. So, this feeling, I am, when it projected into the limited identity or localized itself into the state of personhood, it didn't lose anything of itself. Like if I have a candle here, from this one candle I can light 1 million candles without it affecting this candle. The I amness itself does not lose something of itself to go into the person. It remains always pure. It has the ability to do that. It identified now with body and with a sense of personhood and live life as person and wants this and likes these people, don't like these people and what this and develop in so many different ways. And each one of us, and us mean the whole world, have our very unique way of perceiving. Just like you go to bed in the night and you have a dream, and even if you're sleeping next to your beloved one, you cannot get them to tune in and experience your dream the way it is experienced for you. Fair enough? We cannot say, look, it's not like sharing headphones or something and so enjoy a movie together. Each person's dream is a very unique experience. I want to say that it's the same in the waking state. Each one's experience of the waking state is an entirely unique experiencing. Now you can say, yeah, but the same trees are there, and a almond tree is an almond tree, a banana tree is a banana tree. This is like this we can see, but these are common things we're looking at. But each one is perceiving in a unique way. That's why I say there's one earth, but there are billions of worlds. A world meaning a psychological relationship with the earth. We are not just looking at the world in its elemental formation. It is to do, we are seeing now through the filter of our own personal conditioning. Why you may like this thing and not like that thing. So each one, the world is a unique personal experience for you. Now, can this unique personal way of seeing the world, in each one a unique picture, and even in one body, the picture is changing all the time also, depending on mood, depending on age, depending on so many things. Can we have one world where we are one being, in the highest order or in any order, that we are living together compatibly? Not really. Everybody has another, one person's hero is somebody else's terrorist. How are we going to all agree? You cannot all. We will not meet like that. We may share certain large cultural, conditioning, but in our specific conditioning, nobody is like you. Not even you are like you. You keep changing also, your own mind changing. What have we to speak about? The only advancement, truly, is when we rediscover our innate nature as pure consciousness. The stories that the way that we perceive, the language that we perceive through, the things that we see, all of this is like clouds passing.